10-Minute Murder contains depictions of actual crimes. What you are about to hear is real and violent in nature. Discretion is advised. This is 10-Minute Murder.
Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm the host. Thank you for being here. If you're new to the podcast, thank you for checking it out today, and I hope after today's episode, you'll consider subscribing or following or whatever your app says. And when you subscribe, you'll automatically get new episodes. You don't have to go searching a couple of times a week to find them. And while I'm talking about connecting with 10-Minute Murder, you can also find the show on social media. Links are in the show notes of this episode, or just type it into the search and it'll pop right up. On Facebook and Instagram, I post visuals that go along with the stories you hear about. Nothing gross or graphic, but enough for you to put a face to the names that you're hearing about. The person you're going to hear a lot about today, you likely already know what they look like. One of the most influential soul artists of all time, Sam Cooke. Last week, a new John Mayer song came out, and I spent the whole weekend listening to it on repeat. A little part of it reminded me of Sam Cooke, and then I remembered that I was pretty deep into some research about his death, and I didn't complete that, so I did, and here we are. The story today is surrounding the mysterious murder of legendary soul singer Sam Cooke. The official record of his death lists it as a justifiable homicide. By the end of this episode today, you might see it from a different perspective. He was shot by a Los Angeles hotel manager that claimed he was attacking her. But there's a lot more to the story than that. We know Michael Jackson is considered the king of pop, but no doubt an influence on him and so many others in the music world is the man known as the King of Soul, Sam Cooke. He was born Samuel Cooke in 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Later in life, he went by just Sam and added an E to the end of Cooke. To him, that E signified a new start in his life. He was the fifth of 8 children born to Reverend Charles Cooke and his wife Annie. The family, in 1933, packed up and moved to Chicago. He was enrolled in Wendell Phillips Academy High School, which is the same school that Nat King Cole went to just a few years earlier. From an early age, Sam performed. He and some of his siblings had their own group called the Singing Children. He later bounced around to a couple other groups and became friends with his neighbor and fellow singer, Lou Rawls. Not to skip over his musical career too much, but there's just too much to talk about in this short time span. And you didn't come here to learn all about his musical career anyway. I will tell you that Sam had 30 top 40 hits between 1957 and 1964. After he died, he had 3 more. He was a huge star and a pioneer in the industry and contributed to the rise of Aretha Franklin, Bobby Womack, Al Green, Curtis Mayfield, Stevie Wonder, and Marvin Gaye. He even helped to popularize the music of Otis Redding and James Brown. When he wasn't focusing on music, he had 2 other interests: women and the civil rights movement. Using his popularity and influence with both the black and white population, he lent his voice to the cause of racial equality. He was friends with Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and outspoken activist and Hall of Fame football player Jim Brown. Sam Cooke was married twice. His first wife, singer-dancer Dee Dee Mohawk, was killed in a car accident in 1959, a year after they divorced. And despite being divorced, he still paid for all of her funeral expenses. The same year of that divorce to Dee Dee, he married his second wife, Barbara Campbell. He was still married to her at the time of his death. They had 3 children together: Linda, Tracy, and Vincent. Vincent drowned in the family swimming pool when he was just 2 years old. Sam also fathered a few more children out of wedlock, at least 3, but maybe more, but 3 confirmed. Fast forward for a moment to after Sam Cooke was killed. His wife Barbara married Bobby Womack, Sam's friend, less than 3 months after his death. Womack sexually abused Sam's daughter Linda, and she went on to marry Bobby's brother Cecil. They formed the singing duo Womack and Womack. December 10th, 1964, at Martoni's Italian restaurant, Sam was having a late dinner and drinks with a music producer. He'd already had 3 or 4 martinis, and people that recognized him kept stopping by the table to say hello. He was pulled away to the bar by a group, where he had even more to drink. He was flush with cash and paying for everything. He pulled a huge wad of cash out of his pocket that looked to be thousands of dollars, and people nearby noticed. Sitting near the bar was a lady that caught Sam's eye, 22-year-old Elisa Boyer. He had seen her before, and a guy in Sam's band introduced them. Before long, he cozied up with her in the booth that she was sitting in. They left the restaurant together at about 1 a.m. on December 11th, hopped in Sam's new bright red Ferrari, and sped to a club where he was going to meet up with the producer he was having dinner with earlier. Inside the club, he found that the producer did not wait around for him, and that some men were hitting on Boyer. He got into a heated argument with them before Boyer asked him to just take her home. It was 2 a.m. at this point. In the car, Sam raced down Santa Monica as he touched Boyer's hair, telling her how pretty she was. She asked again for Sam to take her home, but instead, Sam drove to the Hacienda Motel, which rented rooms by the hour, $3 per hour to be exact. He got out of the car alone and walked up to the glass partition in the manager's office, requesting a room. He registered under his own name, and the manager, Bertha Franklin, saw Boyer sitting in the car behind him and told Sam that he would need to sign in Mr. and Mrs., which he did. He got the key and drove around to the back of the motel. Boyer says from this point, Sam dragged her from the car, got her inside, pinned her to the bed, and began tearing her clothes off. She later told police that she knew that he was going to rape her. It wasn't clear if he let her up or if she got away, but Boyer went to the bathroom. The lock was broken and the window was painted shut. She couldn't escape from there. She came out of the bathroom and Sam immediately went into the bathroom. While he was in there, she grabbed the pile of clothes and ran a half a block away. She stopped to get dressed. She had also grabbed Sam's shirt and pants. She left those on the ground and found a phone and called the police. Back at the motel, Sam came out to no Boyer and no clothes. Wearing only one shoe and a sports coat, he went to the manager's office, banged on the door shouting, "Is the girl in there?" Bertha Franklin shouted back, "No," but he didn't believe her. He used his shoulder to bust the door open and grabbed Bertha's wrist, asking, "Where is the girl?" There was a scuffle. Sam fell on top of her. She bit his shoulder through the sports coat and struggled to get him off of her. When Bertha got up, she went to the TV. On top, she kept a .22 caliber pistol. She picked it up and fired 3 shots at Sam. The first 2 shots missed, but the third hit him in the side, passed through his lung, his heart, and into his other lung. He fell back and said what would be his last words, "Lady, you shot me." She claims that he charged her again, but she fought him off with a broom. By the time the police got there, he was for sure dead. Tests showed that Sam Cooke had a blood alcohol content twice the legal limit to drive. His credit cards were missing, and his money clip contained only $108. The shooting was ruled a justifiable homicide. The case was closed. That's the official story and the one that most people know. But there's a lot more to it. Elisa Boyer told police that she met Sam at a Hollywood party and that he sang a song there. She didn't mention the restaurant or the nightclub after. Boyer said that he kidnapped her in his car and drove too fast for her to jump out. Yet when Sam registered at the motel, she could have easily escaped while he was away. When she did escape, she took his clothes with her, which she had seen earlier in the night, thousands of dollars of cash in the pocket. A pocket that later only contained a little over $100. It turns out Boyer was a prostitute and was known to hang out at the $3 per hour Hacienda Motel. What Sam's friends think happened is that when Sam went to the bathroom, naked, Boyer grabbed his money, credit cards, and clothes so that he couldn't chase her, and ran. Unrelated, much later in 1979, Boyer was found guilty of killing her boyfriend. I didn't research that murder, so I don't know what that's all about. The person that pulled the trigger, Bertha Franklin, was an ex-madam with a lengthy criminal record. She sued Sam Cooke's estate, stating that death threats forced her to quit her job. She sued for $200,000 and lost. According to his friends, Sam Cooke was a known womanizer and made enemies because of that. It also made him a target. They believe that it's possible that Sam was set up by Boyer and Bertha, lured into a trap, and it didn't go exactly as they planned. Sam was basically naked, obviously not carrying a weapon, and she shot him after a relatively minor scuffle. Was it justifiable, or was Sam Cooke murdered in a robbery attempt? there are more questions than answers. Answers that his friends and family will likely never get. That's today's 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. Thank you for listening today, and if you have a story that you would like for me to possibly cover here on this podcast, you can email it to me, 10minutemurder@gmail.com. You can easily connect with this podcast on social media. Just click the links in the show notes of this episode, or even easier, just type 10-Minute Murder into Facebook or Instagram. Before you go, subscribe to 10-Minute Murder wherever you are listening right now, and you'll never miss another episode. If you have friends that are into brief true crime stories like this one, let them know about 10-Minute Murder. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.